to imagination universe.
Do you remember going to the mall to sit on Santa's lap and tell him everything you wanted for Christmas? Most kids have happy memories of this, but my trip to Santa's village became a nightmare. I was 5 years old, and I remember this day. It's one of my earliest memories. It still gives me anxiety after 20 years. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. Of the 3 girls, I was the youngest. My brother was younger than me. He was 3 at the time. So, Mom was taking us to Santa's village to see Santa Claus. Mom had her hands full, trying to control all of us. My little brother was the most difficult. Let go of his hand for a second, he'd blast off. So, Mom always had to be holding onto him. My sister Mary insisted that Mom also hold her hand. My oldest sister, Connie, watched over me. Connie was 8. We walked together, but I wouldn't let her hold my hand. I wanted to be a big girl and walk independently. Mom parked at the back of the mall. Santa's village was in the rotunda at the front entrance, so we had a long walk to get there. The mall was jammed, packed with people, and kids were running everywhere. Well, Connie ran ahead of Mom, Mary, and Sammy to get in line for Santa. Connie was ahead of me when I ran past a storefront with many Christmas decorations covering the windows so you could not see inside. The gate covering the entrance was down almost to the floor, and I could hear Christmas music inside, so I bent down and looked in. To my absolute delight, there was a Christmas wonderland with animatronics of reindeer and snowmen and kids throwing snowballs. There were giant candy canes as tall as me. I stooped, walked under the gate, and skipped through the wonderland of twinkling colored lights until I came to a gingerbread house. I pushed the door open, and there sat Santa Claus. I was ecstatic. He looked at me and said, "Come, child, sit on my knee and tell me your Christmas wishes." I flew into his lap and spoke nonstop about what I wanted for Sammy, Mary, Connie, and me. When I finished, I said I must go. I tried to get off his lap, but he held me so close I could not breathe, saying, "No, child, you will stay with me." I panicked and screamed. He released me, and I ran back through the light maze and under the gate. My mom was there looking for me, and I cried, saying Santa wouldn't let me go. She got mall security, and the store manager said they were not open, and no Santa was hired by the store. The imposter Santa was not found when they investigated the gingerbread house. It was a Christmas Eve. I'll never forget, the kind that still chills me to the bone every Christmas season, and not just because of the frosty air outside. The night had been perfect. The house was filled with laughter, and the scent of pine mingled with the aroma of freshly baked cookies. Even though it was quite late, my kids were so hyped up for Christmas Day. It took a while, but we finally nestled them into their beds, and after that, my wife and I sat down to enjoy the quiet calm that only comes when a day of joyous chaos winds down. I remember looking at the clock as it struck midnight before I and my wife did a silent toast to the day's end and wished each other Merry Christmas. Then a sudden noise jolted me from my reverie. The sound of the front door handle rattling sent a shiver down my spine. It must be Santa, my youngest, who we thought was asleep, said excitedly from the staircase. But something deep in my gut knew better. Immediately, my wife went to our daughter on the stairs while I crept to the door and peered through the peephole. There, shrouded in the darkness of the night, was a figure that sent a wave of dread washing over me. This was definitely no jolly old man in a red suit. I signaled to my wife to take our daughter to the room and call the police. As she did what needed to be done, I ran to my room to get a baseball bat that I had bought a long time ago and just abandoned, and I stood as a guardian ready to swing, even though my heart was beating so fast. The intruder, persistent and unaware of my watchful gaze, continued to try the door, each attempt more desperate than the last. The wait for the police was agonizing, every second stretching into eternity. But when those sirens finally cut through the night, the intruder disappeared as quickly as they had come, leaving nothing but a set of footprints in the snow and a family whose peace had been disturbed but not destroyed. The police searched for around but never found him. That spooked me a lot because I was scared he would come back. But it's been 3 years, and we haven't had any more attempted break-ins. It was December 25th, 2001. We woke up to a dismal day, gray and raining softly, not your typical Christmas day in this part of the world. No matter, we had been invited to Angel, our youngest daughter's house, for lunch. All we had to bring was the trifle. At about 9 a.m., we climbed into my Honda Ballard, my husband Ray driving, me riding shotgun with Auntie, and the trifle in the back seat. We had almost completed our usual 3/4-hour drive when disaster struck. The back road we were on was smooth and slick with rain. There was a bit of traffic in front of us, but nothing hectic. A white Backy, light delivery van with an open back, was in front of us. The vehicle had a tow bar attached to its rear. It braked suddenly. Ray braked too, but our car aquaplaned on the slippery road and slammed into the back of the Backy. 93-year-old Auntie was catapulted up and forward, slamming into the back of my seat. I was flung forward against my seatbelt but sustained a cut on my knee. From what, I can't tell. I only discovered that later in the day. Ray got a bit squished by the steering wheel. Plumes of steam erupted from the radiator. Ray jumped out to see what damage had been done, but knew from prior experience that the news wasn't going to be good. I unbuckled and hopped out to see to untie. Her face was covered in blood. Her bottom false teeth had cut right through her bottom lip. I didn't know what other injuries she might have sustained. Ray phoned for an ambulance and then to Angel to let her know what had happened. We were about 5 minutes' drive away. The ambulance arrived, and I insisted on riding with Auntie. I believe Angel's husband came to help Ray tow the car to their house. The ambulance took us to the huge Barrawanath Hospital. It was the nearest. Unfortunately, it being Christmas Day, they were running out of skeleton staff. The ER was already packed with casualties. Blood trails on the floor led to all manner of injuries. It was a horrific sight. I managed to find a blood-free seat near the gurney that Auntie lay on. We waited and waited to be attended to. After a while, I was joined by Angel and her oldest sister, Nikki. They had driven over to see what was happening. Our turn came at some time after 3 p.m. The only doctor on duty apologized profusely. She didn't even have an assistant. I volunteered to assist her on this case. She looked surprised, but smiled and nodded her acceptance of my offer. She looked like she was ready to drop with fatigue. Soon we were in the OR, and I had pulled on gloves and was handing her swabs and instruments. Auntie had to have 2 sets of stitches, one inside her mouth, the other on the outside. I felt so sorry for the old girl. By the time we left the hospital, it was already 5 p.m. Angel drove us back to her house. We were all starving as none of us had had our lovingly prepared Christmas lunch. Poor Auntie, she couldn't eat anything, so Angel gave her some ice cream. The beautiful trifle I had made was now sloshed all over the floor of the car. For almost a month afterwards, we had to puree Auntie's food until her mouth healed. I had this strange pain in my upper chest that wouldn't go away. After a month, at the family's insistence, I took myself to the hospital. X-rays were done, and it was discovered that I have fractured sternum from the seatbelt. Merry Christmas to you all.